Hi, everybody. Good morning. I just wanted to share um, some things about Module 6 and talk about really what's going to occupy us for the next few weeks as we move into the last part of the course. So, I posted an announcement about this last week, but I want to clarify it here now and talk about a few other things, of course. So, Module 6 is really asking us to think more and more about academic research, to think more and more about um, this third essay I'm asking you to write. And so, one of the things that this third essay asks you to do more, even more than the last one, is to incorporate sources and to incorporate at least one peer-reviewed, um, credible source. So, I want to talk through what those things mean and some of the other key parts of this. If you look down here, you have a reading quiz about evaluating sources. This has to do with these two readings that I've given you here about research writing and source evaluation. But then you'll notice the other two things for this module. They're all related to essay number 3, and so again, the idea here is this is not busy work. This is all to focus on the essay and to help you think through the essay. So, for example, essay number 3, peer review, that's sort of what's on deck for this week. And it asks you to post a draft by Wednesday, the 8th, and then respond to at least 2 peers by Saturday, the 11th, if you're looking at your calendar there. Now, I want to say again what I wrote in the announcement the other day, though, is I understand this is pretty soon, and you probably don't have a full draft of this essay. That's okay. I want you to use this peer review for something that will benefit you, or to make it something that will benefit you, I should say. And so, what I said in that announcement is still true. If you don't have a full solid draft, but have an outline or a plan for the essay, you can submit that here. If you have maybe a couple of paragraphs or a page or so, or you have a section of a draft that you would like to post and get some feedback on, do that. That's a good idea. Or if you have maybe a little bit of outlining, a little bit of drafting, and you want to post both chunks, do that. Um, I'm not overly concerned about how much you have done for this one. I really just want to see that you've gotten started thinking on it. And I want you to use this in a way that just gets you to put something on the page and get some feedback from other people so that they can talk to you about how this is going. And that's this week. And so then next week, of course, is this revision plan where I'm asking you to think about, like, how can you incorporate that peer feedback into your essay? What kind of feedback did you get? Or how did thinking through that draft really just help you think about it, whatever that is? So that's this module. And that's because by the time we get to module 7, that's where these larger things are coming due, of course. Essay 3 will be due. There'll be a reflection, but we'll talk about that. And then, of course, the annotated bibliography. So use that peer review for what you need it to be. Don't be overly concerned about length or content in that way. But give some helpful, constructive feedback to your peers too. Remember, we want to be helpful, constructive, but also kind. We want to be supportive of one another. Um, we're all working towards the same goal here, which is a successful paper. So let's help each other accomplish that. Okay, so that's this week. Now I want to sort of outline. Well, you may be asking, Essay 3, what is it all about? What do I do? Well, we have lots of valuable links up here. So I want to point out first, Essay number 3, assignment sheet. If you open that up, it's going to look like this. And like you've seen before, it's asking you to look back to one of our previous modules, Module 5, and look at the two related sets of readings. So in one set, we had all about technology and society. This was focused on things like social media and texting and all these things. And the other issue was just the nature of lying in society, lying in culture. These are two big, broad themes. And your job for Essay 3 is to decide which one of these two large themes you're interested in, and then choose a specific topic within that to make an argument about. So, technology and society is extremely broad, for example. And you may have read that and thought, okay, some of that's interesting. But maybe you're way more interested in something more specific, something like the ways in which technology has affected mental health, or specifically the mental health of high school students. I don't know. That's a specific claim, but I think it's arguable. Then your job is to use evidence from one of these sources. So maybe you think like, um, maybe you read through these and you think like, well, I really like what Alison Stein had to say about it. So maybe something she has to say supports my argument. Or maybe you want to use one of these sources to explain why you disagree with it. But whatever it is, you have to choose one of these, and then sources 3 to 4 additional. Um, and that means sources you find on your own, additional credible sources, all of which to support whatever your argument is about the topic that you have selected. So that's where, when I say this peer review we're doing this week, this is a really good week to just outline what your argument is, what your topic is, what do you think you want to say about it, what thesis or claim might you craft based on the topic you've chosen. Now, my example there was technology. Of course, you could do lying in society too. You could, again, that's a very, very broad topic, but maybe you want to get into moral issues. Maybe you want to get into like ethical issues. Is lying bad for us? That's certainly what Richard Gunderman is thinking about, the ethics of it, and also the larger sort of human question. Whatever your topic is, it should come broadly from one of these two big areas, but you can get way more specific than that. I think these are too big. If you just chose to write a paper about technology and society, that's too huge. That's too much ground to cover. So choose some aspect of technology, some aspect of social media. Maybe write about AI or something. And the same is true with lying. It's just the subject of lying is too big. So choose something more specific. Lying in relationships, lying in sort of um, the ways in which we teach children, for example. I don't know. But whatever it is, you'll choose that, and you'll start finding your sources. And then I want to note some other things. The final version of this should be 5 to 6 pages, at least 5 pages, double spaced, MLA formatting. And then the sources that you use do need to be cited in MLA documentation. Now, I have some links for that, but that's also a really great question for your peers. If you know somebody who knows this really well, going to the writing center if you're not sure about formatting and things like that. Again, I'm always happy to talk about this too, but use your resources for these things. Okay, so that's the Essay 3 assignment sheet. Now, there are other things that I think are helpful here. There's an example essay. There's a brainstorming essay like before. There's even an outline. Use these resources. I really, really recommend, if you're struggling to get started, well, start with the outline. Start with the brainstorming help. Here's that MLA documentation link, the link to the Writing Center. Now, you might have seen when you go to Module 7, I'm just going to open this up. You see, we also have not just the Essay 3 due in that module, but also the annotated bibliography. And this is an assignment that accompanies Essay 3, but it's different from it. And so for those who have never done an annotated bibliography, I'm going to show you this assignment description here. So we have both the assignment description, also an example of one, and then a worksheet. I'm going to talk about these. I'm going to start with the example. This is a works cited entry. with an annotation below it. That's exactly what an annotated bibliography is. It's a bibliography that has been annotated. What is an annotation? It's this writing that comes underneath. So you see how this student has this single annotation here, and if actually in this case 3 paragraphs of writing below it, because the annotation, the job of that annotation is not just to have the link, but to have some content down here that both summarizes the source, analyzes it for its effectiveness, talks about like why it's credible, why it's not. I mean, ideally, if you're using it, it should be credible. So, um, but then also the annotation is a place to talk about how this is going to help you make your argument. So if you're making an argument about um, some aspect of technology, this should be a source that you found that has something to do with technology. I wanted to show this first because this is what it should look like. Now, this is a little longer than what yours will need to be, because if you look at your annotated bibliography assignment sheet, I'm asking you to annotate 3 sources. 3 sources. One source needs to be peer-reviewed from a scholarly journal. I'll talk about what that is in just a second. So you'll have 3 citations and then 3 annotations that follow it. And each annotation is 3 things: a brief summary, like I said, a brief evaluation, and then a quick connection. How is this connected to what you're doing? How is this connected to what you're arguing? Now, I also included here, not something you have to turn in, but a worksheet that I think is really useful as you work through your sources. Here's a place to kind of compile this information. So you could put the citation here, as you're working. Some notes about summary, some notes about evaluation, some notes about connection, and then you just have it all there, and you're ready to bring all that together. These bibliographies, the idea here, you all, is again, this is not extra work, but this is the work of, you have to incorporate these sources anyway to the essay. And in academic writing, an annotated bibliography is a useful way of compiling everything you know about this source. And so once you have it here, you can go to what you've written and perhaps even use parts of this to influence what you're writing. And then the cool part, at the end of your essay, you still have to have a works cited page, but look what you already have because of the bibliography. You have your works cited entry. So you could just copy and paste that into its appropriate place at the end of your paper in your works cited page. Now, you do not include the annotations in the essay. This is just in the separate annotated bibliography assignment. So that's the other key thing that accompanies this. Please use these examples, and please use it to your advantage. Now, I wanted to say one more thing. A couple more things. Again, use this MLA documentation. That's going to help you with making these citations. This gives you all the guidance. It even has some of the citation examples that you can use. If you're going to use a citation generator, I think even Purdue OWL links to one. My word of advice is to always go back and double check that. Always go back and double check that. It's sometimes easier, I think, just to do it the right way first than to use those generators, but I know some people like them. Okay, the last thing. So you have this essay 3, you're choosing a topic, you're finding some sources, you're going to annotate those sources in your annotated bibliography. But I want to come back to this one thing, which is that one source must be peer-reviewed. One source in the final essay, and then also one of the 3 sources in your annotated bibliography also has to be peer-reviewed. So you might be asking yourself, what is that? What does that mean? And I'm going to show you through this link at the library resources page how to access this information. So this link takes you to the landing page for um, the library itself. This is just the library catalog where you can search. What I'm going to ask you to do is to click down here on what's called Research Guides. Research Guides. When you click on that, it takes you to a bunch of really, really useful um, sources. And this is, in the future, I highly recommend using this for your major, for the things that you're doing. But I want you to scroll down to English 1013, Writing Studies 1. Click on that. And it's going to take you to a landing page that is specific to Writing Studies 1. And it has all kinds of useful help. First of all, it's going to show you how to access what they call these databases. And these databases are where you can actually find these peer-reviewed sources, where you can actually gather useful sources for your topic. But if you click Start here, it begins there. Then it shows you things like topics, how to choose a research topic. Now you have those two broad sort of starting points, but this is a way to maybe think more about it. There's a reference section for helping find just basic information. But here's where, when you get into things like journals and databases, this is where you're going to find help in terms of finding a peer-reviewed source. So I would, if you've never used databases like EBSCOhost or JSTOR before, these are like giant search engines just for academic sources and for peer-reviewed sources. I would watch some of their guides here on this. I'm going to show you, for example, if we go through JSTOR. Sorry, it's going to sign me in. And so it's going to take you to a landing page for JSTOR. But for example, there's a search engine here, and it says you can search journals, books, images, and primary sources. I'm going to go to advanced search, because one thing I want is content that I can access. One thing I want articles. I don't necessarily want books right now or reviews. And I'm going to search for terms like social media and you can search different sets of terms here. So social media is one set of terms, and then another set of terms, mental health. And let's see what we get. And this results in 32,138 results here. That are different articles here from different kinds of expertise on the ways in which different things, have sort of pinged my search results there. Now, I may decide this is too much. I can't really search through this. But you can find it, you can narrow things down by language. You can narrow things down by its topic area, or you can just decide maybe to modify your search or redo it. Now, JSTOR's one, I really recommend starting with something like EBSCOhost as well. This one is probably going to be way more useful to your interests. Let's see. EBSCOhost Web is, I think, where we would go. And you're going to find sort of an overwhelming number of sources. I tend to select most of them, even though it maybe results in like slower sources or slower searches. If you hit continue, here's where you can narrow down some specific results. For example, let's start with our search. So let's think about social media and mental health in teenagers. And look, it's already coming up with some results for us there. That's going to find our search there. That came up with about 5,000 sources. But here I can limit this. I can limit this in specific ways. I can limit it by full text. That means I have access to the article through this database. I can also limit it by peer-reviewed. It's going to limit it to just peer-reviewed sources, which is what you're asked to find anyway. And if you do that, you start to see we've narrowed it down to 1,700 things there. Now, that's still a lot. But as you begin to narrow and you begin to play around with your search terms, you're going to find new and different sources. You're going to find new and more specific things. So EBSCO, JSTOR, those are the two I would recommend starting with. Use some of these library resources here, though. If you're not sure, watch some of these videos. Reach out to me if I can help. But the idea is once you've found a source that works for you, like say that just this first source is one that you like, you can click on it and it gives you several things. If you look over here, you have several options. You can send this source to yourself. You can find the full text of it in a PDF. That's usually what I do. When you click that, it'll download it for you. But here is the coolest thing. If you click on Cite, it's going to show you this entry in an appropriate citation. So you would scroll down. These are all the different sort of citation styles, and you find the MLA style. There it is, cited for you. And you can just copy that. And then when it comes time to do your annotated bibliography, maybe you're using this worksheet, you could paste that citation right there. Now I'm going to keep text only. Oops, no, I'm not going to do that. But I am going to make sure I clear that formatting when I eventually paste that in. But there you have that citation built for you. That's one of those really, really cool things about these databases, that not only can you find that source, it's going to help you with the citation process as well. Okay. That was a lot of information, but I wanted to talk through those library resources. Please reach out to me if you have questions. Use that peer review this week for what you need it to be. Start really working through these ideas, thinking through these. You'll have feedback from me on Essay 2 very soon, and any other things that are outstanding in Blackboard. And yeah.